Hello, my name is Chris Sagne, and I'm here to tell you about a service I am creating which will aggregate all available government incentives and market-based resources that, in combination, will lower the cost of grassland restoration and make the business of restoration more profitable. So over the past century, the American prairie almost entirely has been converted from a thriving and diverse grassland into monoculture agriculture fields. This dramatic transformation has borne negative impacts on a number of sustainability related criteria. Currently, less than 1/10 of 1% of the prairie remains intact. This means almost a complete collapse of an ecosystem. Coupled with this collapse has been a widespread loss of biodiversity, and we are no longer able to benefit from the natural ecosystem services that grasslands provide. These new agricultural fields have been established primarily for the production of corn and soybeans, much of which are genetically modified varietals of such a low quality that humans cannot eat them unless they have been heavily processed. The lion's share of these crop yields are devoted to feeding livestock that evolved eating grass species. Switching them to a diet of corn and beans in combination to raising them in high-density feedlots has been shown to cause significant health issues for both the animal and the consumer of their meat. This modern practice of agriculture requires resource inputs of fuel, fertilizer, and pesticides in high quantities that pose a serious threat of chemical pollution. Restoring grasslands could solve a lot of these issues. Restoring the grassland would have numerous environmental benefits. During rains, the fertilizers and pesticides that are sprayed on crops wash into the waterways. These pesticides can kill the insects that form a base layer of the aquatic food chain, and the fertilizers, which are primarily petroleum-based phosphorus and nitrogen, can cause algae blooms. When that algae dies, it uses all of the dissolved oxygen in the water as it decomposes. Nothing else can live in the water once the oxygen is gone. Grasses can serve as a filter to this agricultural runoff, solving the problem before it becomes one. These restored grasslands will become a part of an endangered habitat that will be used by threatened and rare flora and fauna species. Additionally, grasslands are a great storage for atmospheric carbon dioxide. Grass species sequester more CO2 per unit of size than a woody species, and a much greater percentage of the living system is located in the root system, which is how carbon is stored in the soil. In a world threatened by climate change, the restoration of a significant natural carbon sink such as this could have global implications. There are a lot of benefits that restoration provides for society as well, and many of these will be seen in public health. Grass-fed agriculture, which can easily be implemented on restored grasslands, provides a much healthier food option than corn-based meats. Grass-fed is leaner and won't contribute to obesity the way our current system does. Also, grass across the landscape will keep the soil out of the air and on the ground. By reducing the amount of airborne particle matter, restoration will help lessen respiratory infections and diseases. Similarly, because grasses filter toxins from water, many other health-related symptoms can be avoided once grasslands are restored. The environmental and social benefits from grassland restoration will have economic merits also. As I just mentioned, grass-based agriculture practices can take place on restored grassland. The market price for grass-based foods is higher than that of corn, and these products can be delivered directly to market, as opposed to the current system of growing corn to sell to a feedlot, which then raises livestock for market. This sort of system, then, offers greater opportunity for rural communities. And it is these sorts of opportunities that can be sold to rural landowners so that their property will undergo restoration. There are also the cost savings to be seen by preventing healthcare issues, and there has been ample science in support of the claim that a healthy workforce is a more productive workforce. Additional economic opportunities involve utilizing environmental credits, such as carbon offsets, and it is examples such as this that will make this service a profitable venture. Despite all the positives attributable to grassland restoration, It should not be assumed that this process is necessarily easy. There are many challenges to be understood. First off, the science behind restoration ecology is complex and requires knowledge and understanding of individual plant and fauna species, geology, and how all of this intersects and interacts at the ecosystem level. Another issue is that the practice of land restoration is quite labor intensive and is a continual process. Also, there's a high price for seed and machinery that has hampered the efforts of land restoration operations. The first two challenges can and have been overcome by various organizations. The third challenge, however, the cost, remains a significant hurdle, and this is the challenge that my service looks to overcome. So, another look at the service itself. The function of this service is to aggregate all of the available government incentives and the market resources that will either reduce the cost associated with restoring land or expand the revenues coming in. Savings can be passed on to the customer, which will promote the practice of grassland restoration. By making this practice financially viable, this service will have a direct and sustainable positive impact on the environment, the economy, and society. This service will be sold to all entities in the business of grassland restoration and should be considered as an addition that will enhance the economic feasibility of existing operations. This will include nonprofits such as land conservation or hunting and fishing groups, or for-profit organizations whose business is or contributes to restoration. Additionally, federal, state, and local government bodies can become customers of this service. Regarding the profit structure of this service, all revenues will be derived from previously unutilized market resources. For allowing the service to enhance a restoration operation, the client will receive 25% of this new revenue stream or cost savings. This is money that the client would not be realizing without this service. Now, the remaining 75% will be retained by the management team to cover management fees and to hire and facilitate contractors. And an example of the type of contractor that might be utilized would be an entity that measures the carbon dioxide levels of the soil both before and after restoration has occurred. There are a number of groups that are looking to enhance their business by tapping into environmental credit markets, most specifically the carbon market. Saving Species is a not-for-profit that is using carbon offsets to protect endangered habitats. Power Tree Carbon Company is a for-profit entity that is restoring woodlands in the Mississippi River Delta region. Much of their funding is reliant on the carbon market, and there are other examples of groups doing similar projects. The differentiating factor is that these are restoration groups that are attempting to manage environmental credits themselves to complement their goal, whereas my service could be used by these groups to allow them to focus on their restoration objectives without the hassles of intricate and ever-evolving credit markets. Currently, there are no organizations focusing on grassland restoration that offer the same experience as my service. The management team of this service will be held at 3 for the foreseeable future. It will consist of a CEO that will focus on aggregating the market resources, a general counsel to ensure the legality of all contracts and environmental credit swaps, and a director of business development who will link the service to the clients. The advisory board will consist of a diverse grouping of individuals with unique talents, backgrounds, and points of reference. Naturally, a restoration ecologist will assist in maintaining an understanding of the deeper mission of the service, which is to restore grasslands. An expert from the communications field will help with the marketing and outreach strategies to ensure the success of this venture. An expert in environmental credits will be utilized so that the service stays atop this evolving industry. Also, a farmer, one who practices grass-fed agriculture, will be asked to help rural landowners understand the merits and economic opportunities of restoring their land to grass. As this is a service that is in the early planning stages, Year 1 and 2 will be devoted to becoming fully intimate in the environmental credits markets. Special focus will be put on acquiring carbon credits for restoration projects and integrating the service on an international scale. Year 3 will involve additional research into the available government incentives, be they tax credits or just outright subsidies. This service will then launch in Year 4. This first year of operations will focus on building domestic clientele, and the goal will be to attach this service to, at minimum, 10 unique restoration projects. In Year 5, we will look to expand so that the service can be utilized by restoration practitioners on a global scale. And with that, I would like to thank you for your time and consideration of Aggregated Services. Thanks.